just want to say good evening to everybody. Thank you so much for joining tonight. My name's Nick Wheeler. I'm Vice Chair of the Enterprise Fellowship alongside Jenny Campbell, who's hosting the interview this evening. The Enterprise Fellowship is it's a group of entrepreneurs who philanthropically support the Prince's Trust's Enterprise Programme, which helps young people to start their own business. So first of all, I'd just like to say a big hello to my fellows, really. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for your continued support through what is such a challenging year. It's been particularly challenging if, like me, you were stupid enough to set up a men's work shirt business 35 years ago, and you find yourself 35 years later where actually nobody's going to work and certainly not wearing shirts. But your support has enabled the Prince's Trust to continue delivering the Enterprise Programme online right across the UK, right throughout the pandemic. And as a testament to the impact of this support, I want to just welcome the very, very inspirational Laura and Rachel, who are going to kick off this evening by sharing their story with us. Thank you, Laura and Rachel.
Well, thanks, Nick, for that very kind introduction. So hi, everyone. Thank you for having us. So I'm Rachel Beattie.
And I'm Laura Beattie. I'm a sisters and co-founders of sustainable and inclusive women's wear brand, Caro.
So we thought we'd talk a bit about how we came up with the idea for our business, Caro, how the trust has helped us, and obviously like what's happened during COVID, which like Nick touched on as well. So I guess to start from the very beginning, so I'll take you back to, gosh, 11 years ago now. So I was 14 when I had the idea for our business, Caro, and it was inspired by our Nana, who was a dressmaker and also an incredible woman as well. So that was the first kind of pocket of inspiration. And then also, so we're based in Manchester, and I don't know if anyone's heard of the Trafford Centre, but we probably live a bit too close to that, to be honest, to my mum's liking. So I used to love going shopping with my friends, but we all used to try on clothes. And then a lot of my friends used to say stuff like, I wish I was taller, or I wish my waist was smaller, or I wish my legs were longer, just because they didn't fit into these clothes. And I just thought, why are my friends like feeling bad about themselves? Like, why are clothing making them do that? And alongside that, so Laura has cystic fibrosis, which is a disability, which means that I guess one of the side effects is that her rib cage is a bit bigger to mine. So as part of being a little sister, I used to kind of steal Laura's clothes and try them on, and they used to fit differently on her to me. So maybe it was like too big on top, or wanted to add sleeves, or all these different things I'm sure people can relate to. So this was all going around in my head, and my favourite subject was maths at school as well, so I love solving problems. And I just thought, women are all different shapes and sizes, and we all change throughout our lives, and why doesn't clothing change to fit us? Like, why, I guess, does kind of clothing and fashion brands celebrate the way women look, or the fact they look a certain way? And we wanted to like celebrate the incredible women who were actually wearing the dresses. So one night when I was going asleep, so it just been my 14th birthday, and my best friend Heather from school had got me like a Harry Potter notebook. I don't know if you can see it. So I scribbled like the first sketch of the dress, don't judge my drawing on that. And each of the dresses have like a hidden zip around the waist, so it separates into a top and a skirt. So that means that you can have a different size top to bottom, so you could have a 12 on the top and a 14 on the bottom, and it always fits you. And you can also mix and match, so you could put a sleeveless top with an A-line skirt, or a sleeve top with the A-line skirt, and it massively obviously reduces the amount you need in your wardrobe. So I'll cut a long story short, because I'm probably running over already, but we found a dressmaker to help bring the dress to life, but we didn't know anybody who had run a business before, or anyone in fashion. So I don't know if anyone can relate, but when you have a dream and an idea but you just don't know how to bring it to life, it can be really frustrating, and we just felt really lost, didn't we? And then
yes, so during this time my health deteriorated, and I was going through the assessment to be put on the double lung transplant waiting list. And so it's a really scary time and really unnerving as well. But the support that the trust gave us, this is when we found the trust, wasn't it? Was just phenomenal, and it always has been, has given me the skills and confidence to believe that I can do whatever I want to do. And it was just been an amazing support, and shortly after we completed the enterprise programme, I was put on the transplant list in 2018 it was.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're at the point where we had the dress and it took 2 years to develop, and a lot of people saying that, you know, why you bother doing it, stick to how dresses are normally made, you know, why are you bothering? But we're really determined to make the fashion industry more sustainable and inclusive. So we had this dress and we were like, okay, how do we actually sell it? How do we bring it to life? And then lucky for us, we found the trust. So someone just mentioned it to us in passing. And then we got on the enterprise course, I think literally like a month later, the next available slot. And it was basically like a 3-day course where you learn everything from like what business entity to set up, how to do your books, marketing, and then you had to do your business plan, didn't you, with a business advisor, and then you got paired with a mentor. But I guess basically what we wanted to say, because I feel like I've run over, is basically like the trust kind of took us from having an idea when we were 14, not knowing anyone who had run a business before, and it gave us like the skills and confidence to bring it to life. And now obviously have the skills and confidence to run the business that we always dreamed of running. And I guess during COVID, just quickly, we launched charity t-shirts for the trust. I think we're a part of the Future Workforce grant, which I think some people in the audience are taking part of that programme. And then also we are also mentored for young people who are supported by the trust, and one of them was launching their own business. So I guess just to close it, because I'm going to probably run over, I think what we wanted to say was that I think you only need one person kind of in your life to take a chance on you to kind of really change your life. And I think the trust was that for us and for so many. So we just want to say, yeah, thank you to the trust for supporting us, and thank you for having us. So yeah, am I back to you, Nick? Or am I over to Jenny now? I can't remember.
You're on mute, Nick. Nick, you're on mute.
There we go. No, I'm off mute now. Sorry, I'm not very good. No, never been very good at Zoom. I can't even call it Zoom. Thank you so much for that, actually, because it was so lovely. It's so wonderful to hear your story. It really reminds me of what it was like back in the beginning. It sounds like you're going to be overtaking me quite soon anyway. So you've got lots to look forward to. But it sort of, it does remind me, I suppose, exactly why I and the other enterprise fellows support the trust. And I think I know we're also joined today by a group of young entrepreneurs that Prince's Trust is currently working with in Manchester. So I'd like to say hello to all of you too. Now, before I hand over to my co-vice chair, Jenny, who'll be interviewing our guest speaker this evening, I just wanted to also welcome anyone on the call who's joining to learn more about the Prince's Trust or the Enterprise Fellowship. And I hope that this evening really inspires you to support, really. And I just wanted to advocate that firsthand. I've supported the Trust for over a decade. And I can honestly say, I think, you know, sometimes I wonder where this world that we're all living in is going. And it feels like, you know, we're making some strange decisions and going in strange directions. But one thing I find very sort of life enhancing is when I go out to some of the Prince's Trust centers and see you guys who are going through these programs. It's just fantastic. I mean, the quality of the people, the enthusiasm, and you know the help you're getting, and the chance of success of changing not just your own lives, but all the many lives around you when you start a business is just fantastic. So I'm really grateful to be able to give back to this amazing, impactful work, and I just wholeheartedly encourage you to do the same. You don't really want to hear from me, so our guest speaker this evening is also very passionate about giving back, and he is to me he is an absolute inspiration. He is an incredible guy, and he's built an incredible business in an incredibly short period of time, which makes me feel a little bit small. But when I think I met Matt once about 8 years ago, and I asked him to give this talk, and he immediately said yes, which is says a lot about the guy. So Matt, I want to thank you so much for being here and helping to bring us all together. I'm really looking forward to this interview, and for that I'm now going to hand over to Jenny. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Rachel and Laura. That was a fantastic story, and you're still so young, but it was good to hear how the Prince's Trust has helped you to achieve even more. So thank you, Nick, for being with us this evening. I'm really pleased to be interviewing you, Matt, not only because of your incredible success, as Nick said, but because I, like you, Matt, I'm a proud Northerner, and I'm delighted, albeit virtually, to be transporting us all to Manchester for the evening, where we have a number of young entrepreneurs from the Manchester area on the call, as well as Enterprise Fellowship Fellows, as Nick said. So all of you will no doubt have read about Matt's astounding success, particularly over the last year with the Hut Group, the business he founded in 2004. Matt has developed the Hut Group into a major global technology platform, employing over 10,000 staff across the globe and generating sales of 2 billion in 2020. Matt made history in September 2020, yes, 2020, that year, when he led the UK's largest ever technology IPO and listed THG at a £7 billion billion valuation on the London Stock Exchange. So I'm going to interview Matt now, and I'll come back to those of you who have pre-submitted a question before handing back to Nick to round things off. I'll also be bringing Rachel and Laura back in, and another Enterprise young lady to ask your smart questions at the end, or anything I've missed, okay? So welcome, Matt. Could I start this evening by talking a little bit about your background and starting a business? Everybody, including me, likes to know where somebody has come from and how you got going, and especially these young people from Prince's Trust on the call. So can I ask you a little bit about where you started from and what your background is?
Sure. I mean, my background was, I started in being an accountant, which for many people probably everyone switches off at that point. But I went through the qualification. I found it was really good for me, just because you know, I found maths was something for me, and I do think it really helps in business. And I got a taste for it then. I actually spent quite a bit of time as an accountant in challenged businesses, where the business models were needing pretty dramatic change, and I just found it super interesting. And then from there, I went on and worked at a place called the Caudwell Group, which had Phones for You back in the day, and that was one heck of a lesson, right? I mean, you go and work back there, that was like running at 100 miles an hour, and that sort of gave me a lot of the life lessons that I needed, that I felt I needed anyway when I went on to set up THG. And so it was just a normal kind of background for many people, where you finish school, you go to college, go to university. I was going through all of that program that everyone else was going through, I guess, to a large degree. And then I took a bit of an aggressive turn and went and did it for myself, which was not ever really on my life plan. It just kind of happened.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've often believed that accountants don't make very good entrepreneurs, but you're proving that wrong straight away. But I think when I read part of your CV, Matt, I already knew you were quite different by leaping from let's say, a state school to going to university and studying industrial economics. I've never even heard of the title. Well, what took the boy from state school to studying, that's not a normal degree, is it? So what was that all about?
I mean, look, the honest answer there is, when I was doing my A-levels, the various things influencing me, and I did study economics, and the economics teacher was great. I just thought he was awesome, and I owe an awful lot to him, a guy called Mike Smith. And without him, I wouldn't have even made it on to finish my A-levels. And so having somebody that puts effort in with you, that created, and I enjoyed the subject. Before you knew it, that's kind of how it went. The industrial element was, it just meant it really meant you were looking at businesses and spending more time looking at the practicalities of economics rather than the theory, which it gets pretty boring after a while, all that kind of stuff. So understanding how businesses put these things into practice. So that's how I kind of found my way there. But as with everything in life, it's the people around you that have an influence on you, and he was a big factor.
You're already talking about key moments that led to where you are now, I suppose, when you reflect on that. So the fact that you were this accountant going around troubled businesses, and before that, your economics teacher as well, that influenced the path you went on. Were there any other key moments in your life that led to you particularly establishing the Hut Group?
I mean, look, I genuinely believe there's key moments in your life all the time, so it's a series of many many what seem like small key moments, but it's just a constant adaptation that goes on, that influences the direction in which we take. You know, even when when I set up THG, you know, I set it up because I came across the internet, and the internet was well established at that point. It was 2003, so you'd had the dot-com bubble in 2000, and I started in CDs and DVDs, and you know, it was a really bad idea. I mean, it wasn't great, and it took all the money that I'd ever earned and more, and you know, nearly killed us. But you know, you've just through that course, there's lots of key moments that happen that change that journey. You know, the key moments of making the decision. You know, even then I carried on working for a period of time whilst getting the money together to really do this more seriously, and then doing it more seriously. And it was just the interest in and thinking, actually this could work, and understanding the business model. But then, you know, as you then get going, you've got to keep changing and evolving, and that's what we've done. So there's been key moments all the way through. I'd even say in the past, you know, month, we've had some major key moments, and this year so far, you know, we're in May at the moment, it's probably been one of the most defining periods of time in our history by a mile. And arguably, if we can't look back on that each year and say that, then I'm probably not the right person to have been leading the business.
Yeah, so you want to see those key moments every year. And we're going to come on to the business now and the impact of COVID, etc. But again, because we've got a lot of young people on the call from Manchester, would-be entrepreneurs with the help of the Prince's Trust, just staying right back almost in your childhood, pre-18, where, you know, some of these young people on the call have got fairly troubled and challenging backgrounds, whether or not it's the health challenges that the girls talked about, or, you know, other challenges in young people's lives. Were there any factors when you were growing up that really influenced where you are today?
It's funny, right? If ever I dare say anything about it, I'm still quite close to my mum. My mum just goes mental because
well, she's not. No one's watching. Just tell me.
Your parents always have a different view than yourself. You know, look, it was a pretty insecure upbringing, is what I would say. And there's nothing like a bit of fire under your feet to keep you focused. And so there's no doubt, right? I came from you know, a pretty financially insecure background at the bottom of the ladder, and that has an impact on you, right? I don't care who you are, those kind of things bother you, and it even affects me today in terms of my mindset and my outlook and the rest of it. And arguably it pushes you to take risk, and then also at certain times avoid risk. But look, you know, touch wood, I think, you know, I'd like to think that the challenges I've had to overcome have probably been my starting point, and some of those things which actually become a blessing for many people. You know, it can really be a blessing, and I'd probably say for me it has been. And then my next challenge is, how do I make my kids have a similar kind of mindset, and I don't steal their, you know, steal their opportunities from them. But yeah, I mean, look, it was tough, but that's that. You know, we're all, you know, most people on the call from Manchester. There's very few people getting an easy ride, and we've just come through COVID. So, you know, I think there'll be a lot of people know what tough feels like.
Yeah, I mean, I always say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and I always say you are a product of your childhood. Accept that, you know, take the good bits, push the bad bits to one side. You've got that choice to make, and then move on from there. So it's clearly been, you know, an inspiration to you to grow positively from there. And did you have any role models during that period that you aspired to, that inspired you?
I think as I was when I was younger, there were more people. I would look at success, and I would look at people doing things. I was only thinking this the other day. There was a TV program where this guy would go on, and he was a turnaround specialist, and he'd go into these businesses on TV. And I always remember there was an apple juice brand that was struggling, the Capella brand, and he was the guy who told them to put the gold foil on top to make it more premium. You can change the positioning. And so, as a young child watching TV, you know, those kind of things I always found were quite interesting. You know, then as you get older, to be honest with you, less so. It's gone the other way. where obviously there's people like Jeff Bezos, where you've got to be in awe of he's probably the greatest business person to have walked the earth so far, potentially. But so you're in awe of what they've achieved, but I don't, they're not really, I wouldn't ever say people like that are a role model. I actually get far more from the people that I come across around me, people who set their own businesses up, who might just be the physio, the local physio, who relies on getting up every morning and paying his bills by doing his work, or a lot of the more junior people around, and them making their way. I find them way more inspiring and have more of an impact on me than a lot of of the higher profile role models, because being brutally honest, more often than not, they'll let you down, when you probably, whereas the person who's in earnest, getting up every morning, having to put food on the table, and that vulnerability of that lifestyle, I've got huge respect for, and I get far more from people like that than any of the big names.
So people are a huge important part of your business. Again, I've always said recruit for attitude and train for skill, and I expect you have a similar ethos. And you talk about, you've got 10,000 employees. What's your ethos in the sort of people you look for in your business, and where do you find them?
Well, look, it's become a big machine, I guess, without desensitizing it. But we put huge effort in to the culture, and trying to make it still feel like it would have done 10 years ago. So this year we'll take on 3,000 plus staff, 1,000 of which will be graduates or apprenticeships, most of which will have already be under offer, or in part join the group. And so it is that we bring on lots of young people, and then we shape them and mold them into and train them into the skill sets that we're looking for. And if I'm doing my job, we're growing at pace in all these different areas. The opportunities are there for them to just keep within the organization, keep moving through. And that's a large reason why the leadership team is so young. The lady who runs our nutrition division, which has got 4 or 5 brands in, including My Protein, she's doing maybe $1 billion plus a revenue, and she's 29 years of age, and she's been doing the job for 3 years. So she got that job at 26, and yet she's worked for me for 9 years. So the lady who runs Beauty, which is a $2 billion revenue business, she's 32, I think, and she's been with me for 8-9 years as well, possibly longer. And so we have this mentality and approach where we bring in people typically quite young, and then grow them through all the aspects of the organization, and the overarching view is meritocracy. If you come through the organization, we should be doing our damnedest to find you the best talent, promote them and reward them. And even when it comes to things like equity awards, we've given £1 billion of equity away to staff, and that's not just gone to senior people, so it's gone to junior people. So if you excel at your job and that's your career, and not everyone can be a CEO or a CFO or all these various roles we have, but you might just be someone who goes above and beyond as one of the group's drivers, moving influencers around the country. We'd like to think we look after people like that, and just trying to get that through the organization is quite strong for us in that, making sure people believe they can come in and they can come through the organization and make it there, because that's what I would have wanted.
Yeah, that's so good to hear, that how you reward and encourage those young people. One of the things I say to wannabe entrepreneurs is, I think it's wonderful how entrepreneurship is back in the UK alive and kicking, and I think it was given a big boost by the global financial crisis probably, but I also see a mentality of young people who think that being an entrepreneur means that they'll be a millionaire by the time they're 30 and running their business from the beach, and it's not quite like that, is it, Matt? So I say to them, look, it's quite a lonely place to be when you're 18, 19, 20. A lot of these young people should go and get a job somewhere first and learn how to become an entrepreneur. So, working in a company like yours and doing a 3-year, 5-year, 10-year apprenticeship, then they will be ready to run their own businesses. Yeah,
and I did mine. I worked in various businesses, some, from the bottom, from doing all the basic jobs that you can earn part-time, full-time, and then going through and working in places like the Cordwell Group. They don't give you a skill set to then better equip you for what's coming. I do think there's huge value in doing that. And what a lot of people misunderstand is the level of work that goes in, and stress and pressure and everything else. Yeah. I've probably had my toughest 5 months since ever running TSG, right? And last year probably would have been right up there as well, and then, of course you get some years that are better than other years, but the point is, it doesn't get any easier. And if it is getting easier, then it's time for a change, and it is. So a lot of people think you can come along, you can get success, and you're running from a beach, you do that. I would say you definitely need some life lessons before, to knock that thought away, because you've got to come from this to think that this is going to be hard, and it is. It's really, really, it's rare that you just set a business up and it flies.
Absolutely. So when people read your story about floating on the stock exchange, $7 billion valuation, and they think that you're off on your yacht now, that's not the case. You're still, at the helm, responsible for running the business and taking it to even greater heights.
Yeah, I work harder and longer now than I've ever done in my life, ever. Right, yeah. 7 days a week. I've just done a transaction in Japan. And so probably now for 3 weeks solidly, I've just been at it, and the internet is the same, right? So internet is 7 days a week, every country of the world. So the last thing at night that I do is sign off on the hourly reports and know where, so I know how we're trading. When I wake up in the morning, it's the first thing that I look at, and then all day, every day, 7 days a week, that is following me wherever I go, aside from everything else we have on. So it's definitely not, since you IPO, you've got to step up, and actually it's a more serious thing now.
So the COVID pandemic, clearly, I would say challenges bring opportunities, and for your business, opportunities came because people needed more of an online presence. How did your business respond to that then, in responding to the businesses who needed more online presence? How did you go out to them and bring them in and help them to grow and survive rather than wither and die?
Yeah, we built all the technology for all the territories. So if you wanted to sell something in Singapore, Japan, America, we've got the end-to-end solution. So what happened during COVID? Obviously, the rest of the group did very well because everyone was globally shopping more on the internet before. But then you had all these brand owners and businesses that wanted that solution because they didn't have it. And so you've got a big step up in demand for technology, and so we're just working with all the partners that are out there, from Coca-Cola to high street retailers in the UK, all sorts of brands, Nestle and so on and so forth, and so it has really helped us. So we've been very, very lucky. So when Nick, I massively feel for the high street retail. I genuinely do. I just think it's been really tough. Typically, a lot of high street retailers had the benefit of the internet. That has softened the blow quite a bit, and the government has been obviously playing a role to try and soften some of the issues. But clearly, if you're a digital focused business, you should have done very well through this pandemic, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So talking about the future, there's many people out there now and in Manchester, aspiring entrepreneurs or early start entrepreneurs. What advice would you give them as they start out on that journey and doing this in a almost post-COVID pandemic?
Well, look, I mean, it's great, right? Britain is a hotbed for people setting up businesses and succeeding. There's no question of that. Probably a couple of key pieces of advice that I even tell myself now today is, you've got to remember cash. Right, I gambled all my own money to start with, plus some friends who supported me, which in hindsight wasn't a great thing. If you can start off and use someone else's money and a bit of your own money, that's a far better place to be, because that's really stressful when it runs out, and it will run out, and it will run out very, very fast. So I think, when you're setting off with the business model. You need to be better funded than you think. I'd also think that whatever your idea is, it's going to need to change. There's no question, right? This idea that, you know, Amazon set up selling books online, we set up selling CDs and DVDs. You know, you look at Amazon today, and we don't even sell CDs and DVDs today. You know, it's all very different. Everybody has to change their business model. So being receptive and wanting to change, to adapt where you've made mistakes and accepting you've made mistakes, you know, and we make mistakes still now to this day. So all the time we're trying to own up to what our mistakes are, what's happening, and how can we change. And then, you know, one of the bigger final things I'd say is when you do get success, and I see loads of businesses that get great success, the founders get obsessed with the value of the business when they're raising money. And I find that so frustrating to hear, because you should never choose your funders based on who's paying the highest price. That's suicide. Choose your founders on who you choose your financiers who you want to work with, and you can always make things work in a different way. You know, you can, but choosing, everyone gets hung up on how much is my company worth. You've got to say it's worth the most, and you can have a stake. I think that's I've seen people go bust from doing that time and time again, and it's scary.
It's about finding smart investors, isn't it? You know, I've been there myself with the wrong set of investors, and then it's taken me 2 years to get them out and start again. Have you had that experience of taking the wrong routes to finance and then having to reroute? Yeah,
all the time. But the reality is, right, you should also have huge sympathy, I guess, for people giving you finance, because ultimately they're giving you money on the understanding you're going to give them more back, and that's the golden rule. So, you know, that's the principle on which I've always taken someone's money, and we always intend, and touch wood, I've always done it, you know, spectacularly well, of giving them way more back. What you'll find is just some people you don't enjoy, you know, they don't have the same approach and mindset to things, and that can become quite painful. Actually, what I would say is more of a non-exec type can be way more damaging than even a financier, because simply they want more money back. They might be a bit difficult at times or whatever, but if things are going well, they'll give you, you know, they'll let you do what you want. But actually, when you start to bring on non-execs, that becomes a different thing, right? Because they're there for a different reason, and so you've got to be very careful around, you know, the people you surround yourself with, and making sure you get the right partners. Yeah,
I agree. Whether it's your accountants, your lawyers, your investors, you know, it's one marriage, isn't it? And you don't just want fair weather friends either. Moving on to philanthropy, if I may, Matt, you've recently announced your own family foundation, and many entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, come from a place of that sort of ethical and social philosophy. So can you just talk about a little bit about what you aim to achieve with your foundation?
Sure. Look, I mean, the reason it comes to light, so we've always been doing things in the background. It's just not the kind of thing, right? If you're there saying, look at me, I'm doing this or doing that, it probably doesn't end well. So we've always done things along the way. When you IPO, you then get an opportunity, you know, to decide. It does give you an awful lot of options. And so once your lockups end, you know, what we decided as a family is we'd start by putting this 100 million in there. And then, you know, the intention will be you'll do that, you know, at various points, time and time again. But the honest answer on the foundation is I see my job as being completely different. So what we've done is, with our foundation, we haven't got a lot of outsiders involved, because what it will only ever do is it will just be the cash that I put in it time and time again. So it will never say to someone, I'll put some money in. If you can we raise some money for the foundation so we can give it away? That's not what we want to do. And if you do that, you've got to bring lots of outsiders in to check and you know how you're doing it. So this is just quite simply, my son, who's not quite, he's only 15, but he's joining. He's a trustee. My wife and a few of her friends, they then manage that pot of money and just give it away. Okay. And I see like a fence between us, and I just throw the money over the fence, and then I I don't even want to talk about it.
They could be interesting dinner conversations. Where have you thrown the money today, trustees?
And so they had a meeting this week. They were doing some distributions to various things. And look, I've got involved in one where it was a big number, and so I went round to see it. But that even told me more clearly. This was 6 months ago that I went round there, that I don't want to get involved in this bit. Because it's quite emotional, it's quite draining. I just see my job really clearly is I'll pipe. My job is to create the value, and then they can distribute it. And so it's quite a weird and unusual way that a lot of people look at philanthropy. But if it would occupy too much of my energy, my mind, getting involved and understanding, because it does affect you when you get into these stories. And so I have a almost like a protection to myself, which is I'll just keep I've got a very clear view of what I need to do, and then it's for them to go and handle. And look, I've got an eye on what they're doing, just broadly, pillow talk and the rest of it, but that's it really. Fantastic,
that's wonderful. I'm sure many people will be very grateful to you. I've got 3 quick fire questions for you before we go back to Rachel and Laura's questions, and also we're going to bring Noor in from the Prince's Trust. From all your achievements, what are you most proud of?
Oh wow. I mean, obviously I'm super proud of THG, but I'd probably say the charity thing deep down has to be, because as much as I put a protection up around myself, I know what it's doing really, and I've got a pretty strong view on what we're doing going forward beyond what everything now. So it is, because everything else is pretend. Whatever your shares are worth, whatever all this, it's all just pretend money for now until you do something. Whereas that's very real, and it's impacting on people. So probably that it is. So that's probably more.
Really good, excellent. And what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Wow, I get a lot of people giving me a lot of advice. Probably I would say came from a guy in Manchester who's backed me since day one. Put like 50 grand in, 80 grand in, and he's had, I don't know, 10 or 20 million back easy for that. A guy called David Moore in Manchester, and he said to me that it was in a dark hour that I was having probably about 10 years ago, that nobody can walk in your shoes, right? And what that simply means is everyone will have a view. Everyone will tell you this, tell you that. Ultimately, you've got to man up, and it's all down to you. And that was what he was saying to me. Sort yourself out in a polite way. And so and it's so true, right? Every decision ultimately on me. And so it's that saying, if you're doing it, there's no one can walk in your shoes. And so I just take that responsibility. It's a proper responsibility than trying to share it between 10 people and blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, you've got to make the call.
I think that's great that 1, you admit to having dark hours, and we all have them, don't we? And 2, that no matter how successful you are, someone can tell you to man up. So I think that's great.
I have a lot of dark hours, I can assure you. People would never, my wife often says, no one would believe.
No, and that's why entrepreneurs have got to have that resilience to deal with those dark hours. My last question before the girls come back is, so what are you most excited about looking forward? What are you most excited about, probably for the Hutch Group? What's the most exciting thing on the horizon, do you think?
Probably linked, I would say. We've just done a deal with SoftBank, who are a huge tech investor. And, a lot of people, it's almost like proving yourself. A lot of people knew with some technology, many people would pass comments saying, yeah, whatever. And then they're the biggest tech investor in the world, the most successful investor in the world, just beat Warren Buffett last year. And they've put an investment into our technology, which values it alone at this huge number. So that partnership has got huge potential. and linked to that, you know, we're opening up millions and millions of square feet of new offices and logistics centres all over the world in all these different countries, which I've never been to. I never see them. I just get the photos and things, and that's pretty exciting to know, because I see them in Manchester when I'm driving. I can see all the buildings going up and stuff, but I know that that's going on in all these different countries. So that's kind of exciting, stressful,
yeah,
exciting, but it's also linked to that SoftBank piece.
Wow. I can see that you're still very grounded with your roots in the north, Matt, but you're still pinching yourself at where you are and where it's going. I can see that.
Oh, I definitely do that. That's
yeah.
like, I mean, I wake up some days and think this is mad.
There you go. So these entrepreneurs need to just dream big, don't they? And you know, wherever they think the moon is, they can achieve even higher.
Definitely.
So thank you, Matt, for that chat. I'm going to go back to the girls now, and I hope you've got a really difficult question or questions, one each from Rachel and Laura. Off you go.
I don't think they're hard enough, actually. We've just got one. Go on.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for that. That was absolutely brilliant. So our question is, how did you deal with people who didn't think what you wanted to do would work?
Oh.
I mean, listen, that happens all day, every day now, more so today than at any point in my career. The moment you go public, right, you've got, everyone has a view on everything you're doing, like it or not. And so for me, I love it. It hurts, you know, when it, you know, anyone saying, you know, criticizing you, it does hurt, but then you can use that as fuel. And so, you know, I almost like collect it all up. There's loads of good quotes people send me now and again about people throwing stones, and then you put them together and build an empire. You know, so you can lob all these stones over at me if you want, but and I'm not short of stones, I can assure you. But yeah, I mean, just prove them, but prove them silently, right? Don't prove it with noise and all the rest of it. Just go and do it, and then let them be the one that realize that actually, you know, wow, that's probably does work, and sometimes you are wrong, right? You're not always right, so you've got to quickly realize, actually, yeah, I probably am wrong on that. Just move on quick.
Thanks, Matt. Well done, girls. That's a great question. Right, Matt, may I introduce you to Noor, who you can hopefully see on the screen there. I've met her before on one of these sessions. A very successful young lady, but having overcome her own challenges and had help from the Prince's Trust. Noor, your question.
Thank you, Jenny. Might have to say it's been really inspirational listening to you, and I will take on some of the advice, like changing route as your business grows. So thank you very much. My question is, if you would go back to the start of your journey as an entrepreneur, what's one piece of advice you would change for yourself?
Well, for the first 3 or 4 years, I would have gone back and not done it. So that's for sure. I mean, it's hard really, because I think the longer you do it for, the more lessons and experiences and value you get from it anyway. So it's quite hard to go back and say, I wish I could change this, I could change that, because it's kind of part of the real journey with it, you know. But genuinely, the first 3 years, I would have gone back and just not done it. You know, I hated it. I really hated what I'd done. But almost embracing some of the mistakes, some of the issues you pick up, and the rest of it. But you know, look, there's lots of mistakes we've made, you know, from wrong choice of categories, the money we've wasted on certain things, but if you survive them and you get through, I'd argue there's no point going back and changing them, because you're probably better for it. You know, I've made bad people decisions. I've countless bad people decisions that I've made. And of course I would go back and I would change them today, but actually in reality it's given me a better view on what kind of people that we do want and how that can work better for us, so on and so forth. But you know, one thing I would be careful of is the people that, you know, that are you surround yourself with. You know, what you definitely want is people that are fighting for you, because more often than not, you can't win every battle on your own, everything you're doing. So you need other people fighting fights for you and doing things for you. And so if you have the wrong people, then I think that's pretty painful. So so being sure about that, the people around you is key. But as long as you're surviving, what's the point in going back and changing? You'll be fine.
You can't have any regrets, can you? Because it's back to what I say, it's what doesn't kill you makes you, really, and lessons learned. So I think that was a good question, great answer, Matt. Nora, I'm going to throw you a bit of a curveball here because we've got a few more minutes, I think. And I know your story, and I'm very proud of what you've achieved in what's arguably, dare I say, a man's world. So, and Matt doesn't know what you do, and a lot of the people on the call don't know what you do. So just give your little, have your 2 minutes of glory on telling people what you do.
Thank you, Jenny. So I approached the trust around 3.5 years ago. I wanted to set up, it was a toss-up, to be honest, between jewellery and a recruitment firm that recruits seafarers for the maritime sector around the world. Being heavily dyslexic, I was really worried that how am I going to enter a corporate world, mostly on tech and technology online, don't understand even how to set up a website, and how do I do that? And I would follow what Rachel said. I approached the trust by Googling help setting up business, and I came across the trust, applied, and they gave me a crash course, which is 4 days, which is the enterprise program. It's amazing because really when you work at, the same advice as Jenny and you said, I worked at a recruitment firm prior, and I realized I was really good at sales. It wasn't something that I just stumbled on by accident. And I realized that my dyslexia hadn't affected, actually I was better at sales because I was dyslexic. I was not great at reading, but I had really good people skills. But what I really lacked was the knowledge of how to set up a business. And really, when you're at a corporate firm and you do really well, you are scaremongered sometimes to stay in. And I was under the impression to set up a business was very complicated. And it wasn't as complicated after I did the enterprise program. There are volunteers from everywhere around the UK who will give you an hour's worth of advice, like private servers for emails, which are really important for anyone that has an online business. And that key advice, when I go to speak to a web developer, it sounded like I knew what I was talking about, which wasn't the case, but it sounds like I knew what I was talking about when I went pitching for how much does a website cost. And the sector that I was going into is heavily male dominated. So the maritime sector only has something like 2% women. And to be a manager of a business and owner of a recruitment firm in the maritime sector at the age of 27 was a pretty daunting thing, because I just didn't think anyone would take me seriously. The Princess Trust did really well to help me and walk me through my accreditations, because you have to be accredited. And I think you can see them all behind me, to supply the marine sector. But I think the most important thing is, just like you said, don't be knocked back by anyone. I was told by so many people, there are so many agencies out there all over the world. You are not going to succeed. 3 years later, we have proved them wrong. We're working with over 95 companies internationally. Again, we've done really well over COVID. Seafarers are key workers. I am on, I'm trying to be on the board for the Workboat Association, and we've heavily got involved with the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, trying to rejig some of their policies that don't make sense. So you're right in the fact that you have to put your foot down, be persistent, and do great things. A lot of people at conferences would turn around to me and say, we want to speak to your boss. And I would say, I am the boss. I know I might be female and look young, but you can speak to me. I understand what I'm doing. So for anyone listening on the conversation, just be persistent, because honestly, you just need a few people to allow you to go into business. And I always make mistakes, and I just own up and say, I'm dyslexic, you can't judge me. Let's just carry on.
That's a great story. No, I'm sure that's also inspirational to all the young entrepreneurs on the call as well. So thank you for that. I know you weren't expecting it, so well done.
It's fine. Thank you, Jenny.
Matt, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I think Nick is going to say a few final words.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think, gosh, well, I want to say, I mean, a massive thank you to you, Matt, and Jenny, for such an insightful session. I remember when I was small, I used to, you know, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and the only real entrepreneurs around to look up to were Richard Branson and Alan Sugar, Lord Sugar, and I think they were an inspiration for me. But I think now that I've become a bit of an old dog, I think you've shunted them completely off the scene. You are the man. And I think the thing that you probably don't realize, or maybe you do, is there's not just all the people on this call, but thousands of young people and entrepreneurs will be looking at what you've done and how you do it. And it's sort of your humility and your down, as Jenny said, the down to earthness is, I mean, it's truly inspiring. And I think, you know, I just want to say a massive thank you to you for sharing all that. And I also want to say a massive thank you to Rachel and Laura for sharing your incredible journey. You've got you know, a little catching up to do with Matt, but you'll be there soon. You're both just incredibly inspirational, and it's the passion and the sort of, you know, you're just full of it's the fun of it. And I think we all wish you the best of luck going forward. And I also wanted to close really by reiterating why these evenings are just so important. You know, the Enterprise Fellowship exists to celebrate and grow entrepreneurship by supporting, you know, the Prince's Trust Enterprise Program, which helps young people, no matter, you know, what background they come from, to start a business. You know, so for all the philanthropists in the audience, we hope you've been inspired, as I have, by this evening, to continue supporting, if you're already doing so, or to join us if this has been an introduction for you. And most importantly, to all the young people on the call, you know, we are fully behind you. You know, we're really wishing you every success. And I just want to say the fellowship will always be here to make sure you and future generations of young people are able to access the Prince's Trust brilliant support. So just remains really to say thanks again to Matt and Jenny for entertaining us so well. And hopefully the next time we can all do this in person. But for now, have a lovely rest of your evening. Good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks very much.